It appears that the Kamala Harris era is finally coming to an end. It's looking like they're most likely planning on moving on within the Democratic Party from Kamala Harris because Joe Biden is going to run again, but they're not going to run it back with Kamala. There's no way they're going to do this. And after we get through this article, you'll see why I say that as well. Now I'll be reading from a Washington Post article titled, "Some Democrats Are Worried About Harris's Political Prospects." As a longtime leader of Cobb County Democrats, Jacqueline Bededaper has become highly attuned to the factors shaping her party's fortunes in her home state of Georgia: the rise and fall of Stacey Abrams, Democrats' unexpected surge in 2020, and the enduring influence of Donald Trump. Now Bededaper is worried about the political prospects of the woman positioned to be President Biden's heir, Vice President Harris. People are poised to pounce on anything, any missteps, any gaffes, anything she says, and so she's probably not going to get the benefit of the doubt, said Bededaper, who recently stepped down as county party chair. Many Democrats, Bededaper said, don't know enough about what she's doing, and she added, it doesn't help that she's not that adept as a communicator. Now, I want to take a moment to pause on that last sentence where she said, it doesn't help that she's not that adept as a communicator, because I want to take a moment to touch on the fact that Kamala Harris is notorious for breaking out into laughter at some of the most inappropriate times during serious conversations. The moment she comes under an ounce of pressure or finds herself in a situation where she can't get her lies straight, she starts cackling like a buffoon.
This was the vice president's reaction when she was asked about the migrant situation in the San Diego Unified School District. Now, she laughed when discussing this. Take a watch. We'll get your thoughts on the other side.
More parents are seeing the value of educators when they had to bring their kids and said, we're not paying them nearly enough.
Do you plan to visit the border?
Not today.
You might be wondering what prompted that mad cackling during such a serious press conference. Was there perhaps a moment of lightness during such a dark time? Well, no. That embarrassing performance was prompted by a serious question about the unfolding refugee crisis.
Is the United States willing to make a specific allocation for Ukrainian refugees? And for President Duda, I wanted to know if you think, and if you asked the United States to specifically accept more refugees.
Okay. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Okay, I can first. Okay, so this time.
Why are we laughing? Why? Why?
Such concerns about Harris's political strengths were repeated often by more than a dozen Democratic leaders in key states interviewed for the story, some speaking on the condition of anonymity to convey candid thoughts. Harris's tenure has been underwhelming, they said, marked by struggles as a communicator and at times near invisibility, leaving many rank-and-file Democrats unpersuaded that she has the force, charisma, and skill to mount a winning presidential campaign. So as you can see, and as you're going to continue to see as we carry on with this article, Kamala Harris is not even respected within her own party. Many Democrats worry that Biden's age is a liability. He would be 86 at the end of a second term, but also fret over the lack of an alternative with a demonstrated ability to capture the party's imagination, let alone 270 electoral votes. For many, that was supposed to be Harris, the first Black or Asian woman to win a nationally elected office. Now, wait a minute. Is she Black or is she Asian? You see, this right here is one of the many other things that a lot of Black voters don't like about Kamala Harris. The fact that she gets to hop in and out of Blackness whenever it's politically convenient. Underlining the concerns, Senator Elizabeth Warren, speaking on Boston radio station WGBH on Friday, shied away from a full endorsement of Harris as Biden's 2024 running mate. When asked if the president should seek re-election, Warren responded quickly, yes, he should run again. But asked if Harris should be his running mate, she said, I really want to defer to what makes Biden comfortable on his team.
Elizabeth Warren.
Speaking of you're having run for president, should Joe Biden run again for president? He'll be 86 by the time his second term is over.
Yes, he should run again.
Why?
And he is running again because he has gotten a tremendous amount done. It's been 2 years. He's had the skinniest possible majority in the United States Senate and only a very small majority in the House. And yet look at what we've done.
If he's that old in his second term, the vice presidency becomes even more important. Should Kamala Harris be his choice the second time around?
I really want to defer to what makes Biden comfortable on his team.
Do you see how when they asked Warren about Kamala, she was like, I don't know about all that. You got to holler at Biden. I'm not going to say too much. But after making that statement, as to be expected, the DNC made her walk it back. As it states here, on Sunday, Warren issued a statement seeking to downplay her comments, saying, "I fully support the president and vice president's reelection together and never intended to imply otherwise." So like I said, the DNC made Warren walk her statement back, which makes sense because you can't have one of the Democrats' top party members casting doubt on an active sitting vice president. It's just not a good look. Broader doubts about Harris, Democrats say, largely fall into two categories. Some party members fear that Americans are simply not willing to elect a woman of color as president, especially given the racism and sexism they see emerging in recent years. Others worry that Harris herself lacks the political skills to win a national race. And given the increasingly hard-edged tone of the Republican Party, they add, few Democrats are willing to roll the dice. I think many Democrats have changed from a 2008 sentiment or even the feeling in 2012 and 2016, which we were about voting for aspiration, said Brady Quirk Garvin, former chair of the Charleston County Democratic Party. Democrats at the moment, I don't hear a lot of chatter about aspiration. I hear about what's going to guarantee a win, what's a certainty, what feels safe. Here's a more simple translation of what he just said. The Democrats understand very clearly that they can't win with Kamala Harris. It's really that simple. That tension between excitement and safety is not new for Democrats, who fielded history's most diverse crop of primary candidates in 2020, but ultimately selected Biden, a white man and a veteran of the party's mainstream, because they believed he was the safest bet to beat Trump. Some Democrats acknowledge that bypassing a woman of color because of electability concerns could be seen as a concession to historic prejudices, but they still wonder if, at the moment, the party can have both a big tent and a winning ticket. Harris's critics also question her basic political skills on the national stage. In 2016, she won her Senate seat against a weak opponent, they say. In 2019, her presidential run ended before a single ballot was cast, doomed by an uneven performance on the campaign trail, weak support, faltering resources, and turmoil among her advisors. Now, many of you may have forgotten that Kamala Harris's presidential run completely collapsed before it even got started. And to learn more about this, I suggest you go back and read the November 29th, 2019 New York Times article titled "How Kamala Harris's Campaign Unraveled," with the opening paragraph reading, "Miss Harris is the only 2020 Democrat who has fallen hard out of the top tier of candidates. She has proved to be an uneven campaigner who changes her message and tactics to little effect and has a staff torn into fractions." Like I stated, her whole campaign completely crumbled before a single vote was even casted. How pathetic. Both supporters and skeptics say Harris has not been particularly visible even in a job famous for its low profile. Biden and Harris were tethered to Washington during the first year by C-19 restrictions. The first 2 years were further constricted for Harris, who held the tie-breaking vote in an evenly split U.S. Senate, forcing her to stay near the Capitol during close votes. But Harris's low profile has also been a reflection of her team's calculus and fears following missteps and shaky public appearances. Her first international trip to Guatemala and Mexico was colored by an exchange with Lester Holt of NBC News, which she awkwardly downplayed the urgency of her visiting the U.S.-Mexico border. That moment sparked a debate among senior members of the vice president's team about whether such interviews hurt more than they help, Harris's advisors said privately. For months afterward, Harris treated such interviews wearily, arguably depriving her of a wider audience and a bigger impact. Now, I want to take a moment to play a clip from that NBC interview that's currently being discussed. Take a look and listen at how horrible her response was.
There's one other topic I wanted to talk to you about, but let me just quickly put a button.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
Well, I mentioned it because I know Republicans have certainly come at you on this.
That skittishness has continued. One Democratic leader in Wisconsin said she is surprised that Harris has not spent more time there recently, given its electoral importance. I don't know if I've ever seen any reports of her being here or in other nearby states recently, the Democrat said. The vice president's job is really to be that person out there. Harris's team, aware of her stumbles, has signaled any number of resets to suggest that the vice president is about to hit her stride. Harris officials say Jamal Simmons, Harris's second communications director, was brought in to address the visibility issue, and he tried to increase the vice president's travel, encouraging her to meet with key constituency groups across the country. But while Simmons was brought in to solve one problem, his one-year tenure reflected another, namely staff turnover. While most of Biden's closest advisors have been by his side for decades, Harris has seen considerable changes in the top ranks of her office during her vice presidency, particularly among those in charge of helping shape her public image. Harris has her second chief of staff and her second chief spokesperson, and she will soon hire her third communications director. What a dumpster fire. Eric Allen, chair of the Cobb County Democrats, counts himself as a Harris loyalist, but said he recognizes the force in the party and the country pushing against her. As for Democrats, he said, there are some people in our party who are saying we already have hurdles. Let's not create more. So like I stated earlier, this is coming from the Democratic Party, okay? This isn't a Republican that reported on this. This is the Washington Post who spoke to top Democrats within the Democratic Party. And this is what they have to say about Kamala Harris. She doesn't even have the respect of the people in her own party. Let's be honest, she's a horrible politician, which simply means that she's a horrible liar. She has a horrible poker face. And it becomes apparent the moment she opens her mouth and starts speaking. At least Biden has the excuse of being old, but Kamala Harris has no excuse. And because of that, it looks like she's on her way out. And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. And also, please make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you'll get a text notification whenever I release a new video, but it also serves as an insurance plan for myself. So in case YouTube ever gives me the axe, I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And last but certainly not least, for those of you who have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel, the number one way you can show your support is through Patreon. For only $3 a month, that will help put me in position to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And for those of you who have issues with joining Patreon, you can also hit the join button that's next to the subscribe button, and that way you can become an official channel member for as little as $3 a month as well. And lastly, if you haven't already, please make sure you join the emailing list. There is no way that I can go independent of YouTube if I cannot take the audience with me. And a link to that will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you for your time, and until the next video, peace.